one thing I always tell people is, when was the last time you bought an over-the-counter drug? I haven't bought an over-the-counter drug in 50 years.
Wow.
Just don't use aspirin because I
Me
don't
either.
need it. I don't need decongestants. I
Right.
don't need sleep medications. I don't need wake-up medications. I don't need tummy medications. I don't need joint medications. Buy any of that stuff because
Yeah.
I keep my body healthy. And my husband thanks me regularly. He's 81 and I'm 77.
So amazing. When people see you and find out your age, everyone's kind of like, what? That is testimony to this kind of lifestyle. I mean, I'm 61, turning 62
Yeah.
this summer. What if the real secret to better health wasn't a supplement or a special diet, but getting back to simple, single ingredient foods? In today's episode, I am joined by nutrition expert Randy Rolfe, who shares how her journey from newlywed with no cooking skill to gut health advocate began with a trip to the bookstore. Get ready for practical insights, empowering stories, and a refreshing take on food that could transform the way you eat and feel. This is the Green Living Now podcast, where I bring you no fluff conversation with change makers and wellness pioneers who cut through the noise and share what really works for clean, non-toxic, eco-friendly living. I'm Amy Todisco Hartshorn, upcoming TEDx speaker, organic farmer, and green living mentor for over 30 years. I am here to help you connect the dots between what you eat, what you're exposed to in your home, and how you live and feel. Welcome to the Green Living Now podcast.
Thanks, Amy. Pleasure to be here.
So I would love to hear a little bit about who you are and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing.
Oh, sure. I started shortly after I was married and didn't know how to cook. I'd been mostly academic and was preparing for law school, but he wasn't a cook either. And I thought, well, being a doctor's daughter, I ought to know what we should be cooking. And I taught myself to cook in the summer. And then I thought, well, what? So I knew how to research and I decided to figure it out. So I searched bookstores and found there was so much controversy and confusion that I've been studying for the next 50 years. I discovered when I was practicing law that it was much more fun helping my colleagues eat right than doing research for another corporate litigation case. So I started writing books on parenting and healthy families and how to cook and watch your nutrition. And so
Fascinating.
since then, I've helped thousands of people with my books and my courses, and I've taught college courses and after school courses and done a lot of counseling. And now I'm doing a whole lot more online, trying to reach more people to really get them healthy again, because the way we're eating in America today is not doing the job.
That's for sure. You have a particular philosophy around healthy eating, right?
Yes, it's really very simple. My parents, well, one was a doctor, the other was a sociologist, but they were amateur anthropologists. And we went all over the world and we always read about the culture ahead of time and tasted the cuisine. And I really take an anthropological approach. What does our body really need? And what has made us the most successful species on the planet
Hmm.
is being omnivore, that we
Yes.
eat whatever's edible in our environment. The big problem is in modern times, most of what we're eating is not edible. It does not
Correct.
support health. So my philosophy is very simple about getting real food. But it was just about 2 years ago, I woke up one morning saying, what's the one rule I could give people to change their lives right away with their diet? And I thought of just eat single ingredients, things that don't need a big ingredient list and
Mhm.
don't get seduced by the nutrition. Oh, the nutrition's there, the protein, the no, it's the food. Let's eat food, not lists of nutrients.
Right.
I wrote my most recent book, A Single Ingredient Diet. And the idea is that you don't go to the packages that have the long ingredient list. You go for the fish and the chicken and the strawberries and the tomatoes and the whole grain, 100% wheat pasta and
Mm.
the potatoes and just keeping it simple that way. But it's a lot harder than it sounds because most of the typical grocery store is those packages because that's where the money is in the food
Right.
industry. And
Right. And we know that those things are made to be addictive and obviously have all kinds of synthetic ingredients in them. I like your philosophy. I'm definitely a fan of omnivore. I've tried vegetarian and it just didn't work for me. I totally get the reason why people choose vegan as far as the animal piece of it, but I would be so bored eating only vegan food. From all the research that I've been doing, everybody's physiology is different. So some people require more meat, protein, or fat even than
yeah.
others. I've discovered that I'm more of a low carb, high protein, high fat is how I do best. So that's fascinating. So you traveled different countries and you got to sample the cuisine. That is so cool. And I really like the perspective that you are taking as far as what has made humans successful as far as what we were eating. Not clearly not what we're doing now because, when we look at the statistics around health, especially in this country, and obesity and how many prescription drugs people are on, I find watching a movie is so hard to do when the ads pop up for all the pharmaceuticals. How do you start with a client? Like, what are some of the first things that you talk to them about? Obviously, what we just discussed, the single ingredient or the whole food ingredients, but what are some of the other things that you talk about?
Well, the very first thing seems to be to convince people that they can live healthy, that their
Mm,
body is meant to stay healthy for 90, 100 years.
mhm.
And that if everything's working at 20, there's no reason it shouldn't work at 70, 80, 90. So your organs are designed to work, but you
Right.
need to give them what they need. And we do need real food. Definitely every day, real
Mhm.
food. And it's important that many cultures rely mostly on a combination of beans and grains, but it's whole grains that are grown organically and whole beans that are grown organically and picked when they're to eat, not picked prematurely. And most cultures likewise supplement with meat or fish or birds or the products of animals, the eggs, the cheese, and that kind of thing. There's actually no society known to human history that was purely vegan. Now,
Oh, that's interesting.
monks can do it, but they're not reproducing.
Mm,
They're, don't touch a fly kind of thing.
yeah.
And, that appeals to us philosophically as modern people where we see our animals being abused all the time. But you can also get animals to eat that come from a healthy farm where their food's grown regeneratively, where the fish are fished sustainably in the wild. You just have to be more careful to get real food that's real food, where the animals haven't been misfed. And that's a big problem. We're getting milk from cows that are eating soy and corn. Well,
Yeah.
that's not normal. Grass
Right.
is what cows are supposed to be eating. You have to look at what the animals are eating to make sure you're going to get healthy animals. Difference ethically too. I mean, if I got goat's milk when my kids were growing up from a local farm, I saw how our goats were treated. They were happy
Yeah.
animals.
That's
So
what makes the difference for me, absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky that I live in Vermont and we have
yeah.
a variety of good farms that are raising animals, raising milk. And so I think that's the big distinction for me is to look at supporting the companies that are doing the right thing, that their animals are out on pasture. I prefer grass-fed, grass-finished beef and organic poultry and wild-caught fish like you're talking about. What do you say to people that don't have the money to purchase these better quality food? What kind of tips can you
Well,
offer for
yeah,
folks that might not have?
yeah. It's even a bigger problem to actually know where to go to get because some areas of our country, there's no source of natural foods within walking distance or even driving distance.
Right.
I've driven an hour when I was living in upstate New York or where was I in California? I had to go an hour to get to some natural food,
Yep.
but we were interior inside where it was all chemical farmed in the Central Valley, California. What I usually say about budgeting is that the second thing, once you know where it is, that in many cases, it's not automatically more expensive to be organic. And
Right.
what do I tell people first? It's to realize that their body is meant to work and they need to feed it, and that their body not only works as far as transforming the food into our organs, but it also tells us how much to eat. And
Mhm.
like you mentioned at the start, that the refined processed foods are designed to keep us eating. And the body will tell you, once you make the transition, the body will tell you when to stop eating, because you won't have your brain stimulated to say, oh, yeah, I need more sugar every 2 hours. And even the propaganda, they tell us, oh, well, we can't resist the sweets. Well, if you're eating real food, you say, oh, take it or leave it. I don't care. I mean, birthday cake, yeah, of course I'll try it. But you don't crave it because your body is working. It's giving you energy between meals. You don't think about, shouldn't be nibbling something. It's breaking that cycle that's the challenge.
Right. And I think one of the other aspects of the processed food that makes it so dangerous is that our bodies aren't getting the nutrition that it needs. So that's why we're constantly hungry and wanting to eat more and more. There's so many things that are wrong with all these processed foods and junk foods and, fast foods. I mean, funny, I was talking to somebody the other day about all the different fast food restaurants, and I thought, geez, I've maybe been to McDonald's and Burger King, but I've never tried most of the rest of them. And those were like, when I was a kid and my dad and stepmother took us to one of those, because my mother was very nutrition oriented and we didn't have any junk food in our house. I didn't have a TV dinner until I went someplace else. And I'm really grateful for that, because one of the things that I think people can do to save money too, besides growing their own produce as much as possible and herbs and fruits if they can, but cooking from scratch, I find is, when you do a comparison of the ingredients that you're purchasing to make, let's say, a stew versus buying that already prepared, it's pretty significant when you see how much more you can make for less money, and it's such better quality, right? And then you have control over it. So I think, cooking from scratch is something that I love to really inspire people to at least try. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time, during the week. So maybe batch cooking during the weekend so that they can freeze it and then they have it available during the week when they don't have the time to cook. Are
Yeah,
you
exactly.
a fan of cooking from scratch?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. I enjoy it. It became a hobby when I was in law school, was to come home and cook. And I didn't want to read recipes even,
Mm.
because I'd been reading all day. I learned how foods behaved and what made things taste good, and simple ways to cook, very simple ways. And one of my mentors was my great aunt Helen Nearing, and I don't know if people
Are
know.
you serious? Oh, that's
Yes.
right. I think we talked about this.
Yes, yes. Scott and Helen were my great aunt and uncle, and she wrote a book called, well, she was going to call it Simple Food for Simple People, but her publisher told her to change it, and because she didn't want to accuse people of being simple,
Sure.
although she thought it was great. So she called it Simple Food for the Good Life, and their famous book
Oh,
was called The Good Life.
yes.
But anyhow, she definitely kept everything very simple. And so what you said is so true, that it's cheaper to buy the real food and prepare it yourself.
Yes.
One thing I always tell people is, when was the last time you bought an over-the-counter drug? I haven't bought an over-the-counter drug in 50 years.
Wow.
I just don't use aspirin because I
Me
don't
either.
need it. I don't need decongestants. I
Right.
don't need sleep medications. I don't need wake up medications. I don't need tummy medications. I don't need joint medications. Buy any of that stuff, because
Yeah.
I keep my body healthy. And my husband thanks me regularly. He's 81 and I'm 77, and we
That is
still
so
think,
amazing. When people see you and find out your age, I'm sure that I know when we're in a master class together with Gary, and every time he tells people how old you are, and everyone's kind of like, what? That is testimony to this kind of lifestyle. I mean, I'm 61, turning 62
yeah.
this summer. So before I forget, I would love for you just to talk a little bit about Helen and Scott Nearing for those people that don't know who they are and what
Oh,
their
sure. You can
contribution to the world
actually
has been.
Yeah, well, you being a Vermonter, I'm sure you hear about them. You can still visit their homestead in Penobscot Bay. It's called the Good Life Center, and they have a website. And I'm on the steward. I don't get up there very often, but I'm on their stewardship board.
And that's
And
Maine, right?
no, no, it's in
Oh,
it.
it's Vermont?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's in Maine. Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
yeah.
it's in Maine.
Penobscot, yeah.
But
Okay.
but they spent
Close.
most of their life in Vermont.
Oh,
And
that's right.
yeah, they spent most of their life in Vermont. And he sold his property when the skiers came in. He said they were
Oh,
ruining the mountainside and making the land much too expensive. And his wife was upset because he sold it for what paid for it instead of what it was worth. He was an economist and he thought it was wrong to make money from capitalist holdings like land. So
very ethical man.
very ethical man, yes. But he was famous for his vegetarian garden, and they were vegetarians. They ate cheese and eggs, but they didn't have any killed animals. They were on the cover of Mother Earth News at least once a year. They were often
Yes.
interviewed. And so they moved to Maine when they sold out in Vermont.
Yeah.
And Pearl Buck actually bought his place eventually in
Oh,
Vermont. Yeah.
interesting.
So when they got their place in Maine, they were right on the coast. So they actually composted their food with the seaweed they pulled up from the cove. So
Wow.
they had the richest food on the planet with
Oh
the
my gosh, I
seaweed.
can only imagine.
Yeah, and the coast of Maine is relatively clean, so it was really, really rich, wonderful food. So they would make a salad and a soup, and I still do that. I have a soup going all the time.
Oh, wow.
So kids can have a cup of soup,
Sure.
don't have the ice cream or the soda or the cookies, have a cup of soup. And my kids are both famous for their soups now. They cook.
Yeah.
I love so much of what you've said about cooking from scratch that it's fun and it's a
Right.
great way to get kids involved in eating right because they buy into it if they've helped make it. If it's just
Oh,
something if in a box, they're like, "Nah, I didn't really like it."
exactly. And I would take it one step further. So I live on this organic farm in Vermont with my husband, and I do these unique food and farm tours. And some of the most remarkable experience me have been I had one a couple of weeks ago, in fact. It was a family of four, and the two little boys, one was four, one was seven. And the 4-year-old, I was told, was a very picky eater, and he didn't want to try any of the vegetable dishes. And we started with lunch, which is usually the reverse. We usually do the tour first and end with lunch, but they had a camp. The older boy, the 7-year-old, was trying things and he was pretty good about it. But the other little guy was like, no, no, I'm not going to taste anything until we started wandering through the different fields and picking a green bean and a cherry tomato. This little guy ate mustard greens raw, kale, chard, green bean, cherry tomatoes. He even ate lavender flowers. I was like,
Um,
oh my gosh, what happened? And the
uh,
parents were just standing there in utter awe. And that happened another time with three little kids that came that was a French family, and they didn't even speak English, so I couldn't even really communicate with them particularly well. But once they started sampling the vegetables, they love them. And then now they eat them at home, I'm told by the parents, as long as they say they're like Amy and Dave's vegetables. So I think absolutely getting kids involved in cooking and gardening if you can.
yeah, that's wonderful. It changed their lives just
Yeah.
having them walk among the greens kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
thing.
It was just so exciting.
Beautiful.
So how many books have you written?
I'm working on my 10th.
Word. That's remarkable. Gosh. Okay. And what's the new one going to be about?
Gut health,
Gut health.
digestion.
Oh,
That's
very popular
digestion
topic.
and gut health.
Nice.
Yes, and zeroing in on it's very popular, but it's critical
Yeah.
in nutrition to appreciate the whole sequence of what your body is prepared to do. And
Mm,
if you're throwing down sugar, or throwing down white flour, or throwing down refined oils, the body
mm,
can't use things except figure out how to detoxify. And
mm.
then you get all the additives. And I know you're expert in cleaning the house, but we have to clean what we put into our bodies too.
Oh, yeah. I focus on both those topics.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I know you do. And we don't use any chemicals in our house that you don't need to. And I just read a fabulous article about how important it is to honor the natural bacteria that are on our skin, that are in our gut, that are on my desk. If you Lysol everything, guess what? You get fungus that can take over your brain, you know?
Yeah, it's really quite terrifying. I mean, people think, especially during COVID, everyone was terrified. Or, I mean, we even washed our groceries a little bit for a week or two and then thought, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, we did
Um,
too for a little while because,
yeah,
we
because
heard
you
all
just
these
didn't know, right?
doctors.
But
Yeah.
I think that there's something very important about being exposed to a certain amount of bacteria and fungus. Obviously, not toxic ones. So, I've interviewed people that have been exposed to toxic mold, for example, and that made them very sick. But
Oh, yeah.
there's also, I believe, studies, if not reports, about farm kids tend to have a stronger immune system because they're being exposed to all these different bacteria on the farm. And then there's a study that says that even breathing the microorganisms in a healthy organic soil actually triggers the serotonin in the brain, the happy hormone. And I just find that so incredible to think about the impact of soil that we as farmers are having our hands in. And of course, we're breathing it all the time. And then the benefit of vitamin D production being in the sun. There's so many things that we take for granted that, our ancestors just lived this way. I try to kind of return back to as much of that lifestyle. I had a great Aunt JoJo from West Virginia that grew most of her own food. And I remember she was making soap in the basement. She had herbs drying. And I still remember the taste of her beefsteak tomatoes with a little bit of salt. And I always think about, I grew up in New York City of all places, and it was the opposite world from what I'm currently living. And so escaping down to Morgantown, West Virginia to visit Aunt JoJo and Uncle Harry was just like blissful. But
Well, that
so,
was like Scott and Helen for us.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. As soon as you mentioned Helen, I thought, oh, Aunt JoJo.
Yeah.
What makes you so passionate about all this?
Oh, that's a great question because when I traveled so much with my family from age 9 to till I got married, every
Ooh,
summer we spent abroad and in a different place. And every time I came home, I'm like, there's no reason that we should have wars or fighting. So
mm,
it's about healthy people that are getting their needs met, get along. They just do.
yeah,
So that's one of the reasons I became a lawyer. I thought, well, I'll be an international diplomat and do all this stuff. But when I got married, I'm like, oh, it's just about love. It's about getting along with people. It's about raising healthy children and making the world better by lifting up everyone so that they feel good every day and they're
beautiful.
healthy.
Yeah,
So
that's beautiful.
so for me, it's one mission, but to other people, oh, lawyer, now you're a nutritionist. But to me, it's the
They
same
can't see
thing.
the connection, I guess. So it sounds like you have the same kind of change the world for the better mission tied into your work. And I totally agree with you about the more our needs are met, the healthier people are. And I think also living in community with others, not necessarily like co-housing, although for some people that works great, but there's, as we know, so much loneliness in our country in particular. And you mix loneliness with the terrible food and then all the media stuff that, comes through. And of course, it's going to impact people physically as well as mentally. So I think that vision of how we can all be healthier and not struggling with things that we shouldn't have to be dealing with and then going to over the counter medication or prescription medication, which then creates a whole host of other problems potentially. Yeah, there's definitely a better way.
And there's definitely a declining cycle where the additives and the toxins in the environment and in the food reduce our ability to deal with stress and
Yes.
conflict. So it's a vicious circle that things get worse. So we
Mhm.
overeat because we're stressed, because we're not eating right, or because we're breathing mold from our accident. So there's so many, if you're not actively protecting your health, it's diminishing.
Right. Who do you find is the audience that's most receptive to what you're teaching?
Well, what I've always found, Amy, is mothers, like I said about the
Mm.
kids.
Yeah.
They may be overweight or they may have health problems. And they're like, how do I protect my child, get them off to a good start? They're often very busy, so it's hard to get to them online. I think that the people who are in charge of the family's kitchen,
Yeah.
actually,
Does most of the shopping and cooking and
and
cleaning and
yeah, and one of the biggest problems I'm seeing more and more is young people say, "Oh, I don't have time to cook." And like we started out saying, if you don't know how to prepare real foods, you're already in a bad place as far
Yeah.
as nutrition.
Right.
So I'm thinking more and more, like you, of having some kind of cooking class or
Mm.
experience of just being in my kitchen for an evening, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Because it's really about sort of busting myths that if you're a really busy person, an entrepreneur online, you don't have time to cook.
And yet you and I both do
Yeah,
and
exactly.
are.
Yes, yes, and that's an important thing, setting an example for your
Yes.
kids, an example for others, that if I can do it, you can do it kind of
That's
thing.
exactly right.
Yes.
I know you have a 7-week program coming up. Is it coming up
Yes,
soon?
mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yes, I go through, bust all the myths and explain how magnificent the body works, and I talk about, you mentioned at the beginning, different body types. And then we talk about, the dangers of the ultra processed diet we're on, chemically added on foods, and then help them transition to realize how sugar can muddle the brain and white flour turns right to glucose. We say complex carbohydrates, but refined starch is not very complex anymore. It
Right.
becomes sugar right away, goes right into the blood, and then you can get, insulin resistance and prediabetes and all these things that people are starting to hear about. So I go into all of that and people who've been through this 7-week program are astonished that it really does
Mhm.
change their relationship with food. They enjoy it more, for one thing,
Oh,
because
that's
the
awesome.
first rule is to stop counting calories. You asked at the beginning, what's the first thing? It's to
Yeah.
stop counting calories and getting to know your body, because your body will tell you the truth, like the little kid eating the greens.
Yeah.
His body said, "Oh yeah, this is the real stuff."
Mm.
So
So this is 7 weeks online, once a week?
yeah, yeah, Wednesday afternoons.
Cool.
In the East, it's at 4 o'clock. It's a great program. And then I also have an online recorded program that tells all about the four basic metabolic body types. I've
Mhm.
done a great deal of work on that and written a book on it as well.
Oh, wow.
And then I have a free workshop on Thursdays at 4 Eastern.
So every Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
cool. What's that
Uh,
one?
the 5 secrets that nobody tells you about permanent weight loss.
Ooh,
And the first one is to stop counting calories. They
yes.
say calories in, calories out. Well, we're all different. And if they're processed calories, you'll want to eat more in 2 hours. If they're real, they're not dirty calories, then you'll be able to last till the next meal. And there was a brilliant study, which I want to emphasize, that just came out about saying that exercise does not help losing weight.
Ooh,
And sedentary life of modern civilized, developed, I shouldn't say civilized, modern developed countries, obesity has nothing to do with sedentary living. And the way,
interesting.
the way they proved this was a big study at Duke University. And I loved it because they looked at people in 34 different countries, from hunter gatherers to herders to semi agriculturalists to developed. And they showed that the difference in daily expenditure was no different.
Huh,
The guy who's out hunting the deer and the rhinoceros, he burns just as few calories as you and me at
that's
our
amazing.
desks.
But what about, like, the benefits of cardiovascular and the
Oh, of
different
course, you have.
you're talking as far as weight loss specifically.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're told is, oh,
Diet
just
and exercise.
burn all your calories.
Yeah,
Just go out there, go work out.
yeah.
And that's not the way it works.
Mm,
It's the food. And that
that's
was their
fascinating.
conclusion, that it was the difference in the food between the people who eat fresh home cooked meals in the Mediterranean or are foraging as hunter gatherers, they are eating a very different food from what you'll
Mm,
find in an American grocery store.
right. Do you remember the
So,
name of the study?
oh, yes, it was by Duke University, Herman Pontzer, Pontzer. Yeah, you'll love it.
Okay. Cool. I got to
You'll
check that
love it.
out. Wow. Fascinating.
And he has developed a theory that the body it moves energy around. That's why there was no big difference
Mm,
between the guy who's running all the time and us at our desks
mm.
because the body rearranges
Hmm.
through spending all the energy. Yeah, you'll love it.
Oh, cool. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? To find out about your 7 week and your free workshop and books and whatever else you have to offer?
Yeah, post all this on social media,
Oh,
mainly
that's right. You have a
Facebook and
Facebook group.
Instagram. And I have an Facebook group called Single Ingredient Diet. So just
Okay.
go to Facebook groups and go to Single Ingredient Diet.
Hmm.
And we put a lot of stuff up there. And my email is Randy Rolfe at randyrolfe.com. Randy with a
Nice.
Y. Rolfe is Rolfe. And I have a nice website.
And the website address is randyrolfe.com or is it something else?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yes.
nice. Okay. Cool. So,
Yes.
Randy, what's something that I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Oh, let's see. Well, a question I often get, didn't the cavemen all die at 40?
Oh,
So I
okay.
have done a lot of study of the life expectation.
Mm.
And in the last 100 years, we have only increased life expectancy by 10 years in 100 years. Our first three presidents lived past 90.
Wow.
And you can look back in history. I'm a big history buff. You can see people all through history who lived to 80, 90, 100. And we're still conquering other countries and stuff. So the difference is childhood death. And the great change that we saw, the life expectancy 300 years ago was so low because of all the child deaths and the deaths by women in childbirth.
Oh,
And of course, wars killing the
yes.
men. But the death of kids before 5 was huge, and we've lowered that significantly in the
Mm,
last in 150 years. We've lowered that, but with sanitation and nutrition
yes.
and laws against child labor, kids were dying left and
Oh,
right in the 1800s because of
oh my
child labor.
word. Yeah.
Most people don't realize that. And you can look anthropologically that there were lots of older cave people.
Huh,
And
that's
I've known,
fascinating.
and I've been close to a couple of Native Americans who said, we always had elders. The elders would make the decisions,
Right.
especially the older women made the decisions of who would be the next chief. So there have always been elders and they would watch the kids while the women were hunting the roots and the men were hunting the animals.
Mm,
There was always been elders. Even doctors sometimes say that. Well, we used to die at 40. It's
right.
nonsense. It's complete
Right.
nonsense.
Well, this has been so interesting. And I know we are very aligned because I know you from Gary's
Absolutely. I
group,
love
but I also get your
you.
newsletter and I love the stuff that you're writing in there. I feel like you're totally speaking my language. So
Yes.
I would
I
encourage people to get
can.
into your world.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you. I love yours and everything you're doing. So I
Thank you
want to
so
watch
much.
you too. And I know you're going to go far with your message. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah, we're
much.
we're going to change the world. You just have to keep
Absolutely.
talking to people.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciated the conversation.
Oh, my pleasure, Amy.
If you enjoyed this episode, imagine how much better you'd feel if you started applying some of these tools to your everyday routines. I've created a free mini course just for you. It's called 5 Steps to Ditch Everyday Toxins Without Overwhelm. You'll learn simple, doable tips to clean up your kitchen, your food, and your everyday life without going broke or getting stressed out. This is the foundational shift that many people never make, and it's often why their health goals stall out. Get it now at greenlivingnow.com and let's take the first steps together. I'm Amy Todisco Hartshorn, and I'll see you on the next Green Living Now podcast, where real wellness starts with what you bring into your life as well as what you let go of.